What's up, guys and gals? Giovanni here, and I'm here to review episodes 3 and 4. Well, I do want to review episode 2 a little bit. So with that, let's begin the video.
Alright then. On with the show.
So starting with episode 2, it is showing V has another power, which is super speed. Now, that's going to be your problem because if you watch superhero shows, you know how some writers don't know how to write them correctly. Now, based on V's super speed, she's about dash level, maybe even just a bit slower, since Sophie was able to keep up with her when V was using it to clean their room. She ain't Red Rush, Smallville Superman, Quicksilver, or The Flash type of fast bars. She can't time travel, or where she can see things being slowed down from her perspective. Cause you would think, why can't she just beat the villain with it? But luckily, this show is not necessarily about the powers, though if needed, I will call it out going forward on why she could have easily used it. There is the Vampire Council. They are old, but not as old as the Wizard Council.
It's good to see the Wizard Council here. I'm not saying they're old, but when they were born, Earth was just a rumor.
If you ask me, I think they not only look over the vampires in Transylvania, but Earth and the wizard world as well. It's just their HQ is on Earth. They also have this thing called the Ghostgram, in where they send vampires messages. It really pertains to vampire hunters only, not other creatures. V is the first teenager vampire to leave Transylvania in over 300 years. Vampires don't use pencils, so I feel like that's a lie. I'm pretty sure Juliet or Juliet's parents used pencils during Wizards, so if anybody wants to correct me on that, let me know. Ariana Grande exists in the DSU, Disney Sitcom Universe. That's awesome. Will she appear? Probably not. You see V's true form when she is a bat. Sophie has a bit more confidence and is still adjusting to the whole vampire and ghost debacle. V uses her mind control powers again, but it is still wonky, and it almost got her kicked out of school because her parents didn't want her there, but Demi lied about there being no vampire hunters there. At the end of the episode, Elijah receives a knife from his mother for hunting. I give that musical performance in the cafeteria a 7 out of 10. But the episode is a 6 out of 10. In this episode, both V and Elijah blossom. V, she's coming into her powers, which explains her powers being haywire. She can't control her fangs, and she can't control her emotions. Elijah pulled out his family book because he can't control his super strength, and it reads, once he got his steak knife, his superhuman powers began to blossom. It was basically all this was them going through puberty. B, I can see Demi's pep talk becoming a thing. C, for me, the MVP of the episode was Brittany, because she once again broke the mold. She was angry that Elijah was going to the dance with V and not her. I mean, she and Elijah have a team name, the Beautiful People. The Beautiful People. The Beautiful People. However, the two are then able to go because V can't make it to the dance. But later, V was then able to go, and V was embarrassed when she showed up there because Brittany made her wear something that wasn't the dance's theme. So they get into a dance off, and Brittany was beating her. So V decided to use her powers, but with the powers not working right, she crashes into a table, which made Brittany gasp and exclaim, making her feel bad. V would get up and leave the room, but Brittany goes after her to apologize. When she doesn't get what she wants, she tends to go into a little bit of a fit, if you haven't noticed. V accepts her apology, which shocks Brittany. Brittany says if V wants to dance with Elijah, she can, and V says,
thanks, Brittany. That's Princess Brittany.
V and Elijah start dancing, but they find out they are a vampire and a vampire hunter. They both leave the dance floors in opposite directions. This right here, this shocked me that it happened this early in season 1. I figured it would happen later in the season, and I wanted to rant. So bad I wanted to rant. But I cooled down, and just like I did for the Sophie thing, I'm gonna keep a cool head and let it play out. I give the episode an 8 out of 10. The episode picks up immediately after the previous episode. After V and Elijah leave the dance floor, V gets back to her dorm room telling Sophie and Demi that Elijah is a Van Helsing. Demi wants him and V to leave, but V wants to figure out a way to stay at Wilson. Sophie suggests mind controlling him, but Demi brings out a book telling them that V can't use her powers on him, and Van Helsing can't be mind controlled. They are super strong and fast, beyond the inferior human. Thank goodness for that last one, because they would be defeated very quickly with the super speed. In fact, here's how I think a scene with the vampire using super speed on a Van Helsing would look like. So going forward, any new powers that are shown from the vampires, the Van Helsings definitely have a counter to it. Demi continues packing, and Sophie asks the question, what if Elijah is a good vampire hunter? But Demi tells her there is no such thing as a good vampire hunter. With that, Sophie goes to see what is the deal with Elijah and what is his intentions. Sophie meets up with Elijah and they talk about everything on what's going on. Sophie even says she's a good vampire, but he reassures her that there is no such thing as a good vampire. Well, someone should let him know about Juliet, the goodest vampire in the DSU. Elijah thinks it's his job to save the school, so he tells Sophie to tell V to meet him in the attic so they could fight. When they get to the attic, they talk, and Demi runs through Elijah, giving him a mild disturbance, which is only phase 1 of his plan. When it's time to fight, they don't fight because they have to stretch, move the couch, start talking about having a business company. But when it's time to fight for real, they realize they don't want to fight because they are friends. It's really their parents and their ancestors who really had the beef. Why should they continue it? And so they don't fight. Now think about how more impactful had it been more closer to the end of the season. It happening here doesn't really mean as much. If it was closer to the end of the season, they would have fought first, then decided not to kill each other because they realized they are friends. And it just makes me wonder, how is season 1 going to end? The rest of the episode is about Parents' Day, where the parents visit the school. Elijah's mom shows up, no mention to the dad. He has to hide 2 secrets from his parents. V's parents show up as well. Then Elijah and V both realize they're gonna have to keep their parents away from each other. Otherwise, a big vampire versus Van Helsing fight could happen. Sophie decides to help since her parents are showing up. Speaking of not showing up, Brittany was not in this episode. No mention as well. I wonder, how is it gonna play out now that her best friend knows? Based on V and Brittany's beef right now, Brittany would definitely tell not only her parents, but Elijah's parents as well. Speaking of Brittany's parents, that's going to be a centric episode for Brittany. What is her home environment like? And why is she the way she is? Dean wants to demonstrate a intro to stage fighting with the parents. She does tell them to sign some contracts just in case they do die, which makes me think parents have died from this before. During this, Demi is going stir crazy, and after he relaxes, he ends up having dust on him. Mrs. Summers and Oksana get into a sword fight, and the match ends with Mrs. Summers winning. However, during the fight, Mrs. Summers lost her ring, and V's parents, who are both on stage, want to help look for it. But V and Elijah know that there's going to be a problem, especially if V's parents find it first. They will know about Van Helsing's being there. Elijah decides to cause a distraction by telling his mom that he didn't want to do the classical stuff anymore. This makes her very angry and storms off stage. Elijah chases after her, and he does see a ring before he gets off stage, so he grabs it. They have a talk in the hallway. Elijah wants to focus on him and be happy. His mom understands, but she knows he could be extraordinary, but she's gonna let him beat him. They both hug, and she heads back to New Jersey. V and her parents are having one final hangout together before they leave. Demi shows up and looks fully human. He's wearing makeup, but that doesn't really make any sense. I'm not gonna question it too much, but I will if I have to, like the super speed. The episode ends with V and Elijah thanking Sophie for helping with the distraction of the parents. And V thanks Elijah for exposing his secret and not hers. Elijah gives V another name, Cold Hands, which, by the way, he did call her weirdo in the second episode. Mrs. Summers can be seen outside the cafeteria on the phone, as she has not left for New Jersey, and she tells the person her suspicions on Elijah were correct, or why he's been distracted from his purpose. It's because of his friends, and knows Elijah is destined people to become a vampire hunter. And so, she tells the person over the phone to come to Wilson to look over Elijah. And the episode comes to a close. Now, I said I wouldn't review an episode unless something big happens story-wise. And that is, in fact, what happened for episodes 3 and 4. They were basically a 2-part episode. If that to be continued at the end of 3 was not there, I wouldn't be reviewing these 2 episodes. And I only threw in 2 is because there was a few things I wanted to talk about. I give episode 4 a 7.5 out of 10. My grade for when you combine the episodes would be a 7.9 out of 10. But that's all I gotta say about that. Like I said before, it might not be catered towards me, but the show is headed in the right direction. So with that being said, get your fingers up and say it with me. Say it with me.
Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.
Bye.